We are good. So let me tweet something here. How you doing this fine morning? You're in California, right?
I'm actually in Vancouver, BC, Canada.
One of my Canadian buddies. Cool.
Exactly, just north of the border.
Yep. Got some friends up there.
Cool. And are you in Illinois?
Yep, Chicago.
Chicago. Cool.
Yep. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining me today. So, anyways, welcome to Blab with Bacon. I start off by doing some basic stuff here. First thing first, I make sure that I show that this show is, there we go. And it is, why is it not going for me? I thought it would there. It should, but it's not. Okay. Well, sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't, but I'll let it go. But anyways, this show is sponsored by Bacon Podcast and Bacon Coach. And I'm Brian Basilico, and I'd love to welcome my guest, Ricky Shetty. Is that right? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, you got it perfectly. Thanks for having me on your show, Brian. Looking forward to connecting.
Awesome, dude. So tell us a little bit about yourself. You are a blogger, and you blog about your kids, and you blog about travel. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah. So my name is Ricky Shetty. I'm from Vancouver, BC, Canada. So it's about 7 a.m. right now. So I'm not a super early riser, but hey, I did it for you, Brian. And also
thanks, buddy.
for also all of your viewers, and I'm sure all of the people watching on the replay as well. So yeah, born and raised here in Vancouver, BC, Canada. Gone into entrepreneurship in the last 5 years, and I've been doing a hybrid of offline and online businesses. So in the last couple of years, I've been really focused on event production. So I've been running different smaller events, one-day workshops, but also I've been doing bigger conferences, so 1, 2, and 3 day conferences, and we can definitely chat about that. But lately I've been primarily focused on the internet marketing world and particularly on blogging and social media. So I have quite a popular blog. It's called daddyblogger.com, and I've been running daddyblogger.com for 3 years. And just this year, in January 1st, I launched another blog all about family travel called familytravelbloggers.com. And there's a whole reason why I launched a travel blog, which we can get into as well. So that's where you can find me online, daddyblogger.com, and now familytravelbloggers.com.
Awesome. So let's start talking about, what did you do before you got into the blogging and internet marketing world? What's your background?
Yeah, so I mean, after I graduated from university, I actually taught English in Japan, and that's when I caught the travel bug because I was living in Japan, obviously different culture, and then I traveled through Asia. I spent 3 years in Australia studying there, and then I spent a year in Europe doing a working holiday visa, and then when I came back to Vancouver, I got into event production. So that's what I've been doing for the last 5 years. Running, like I said earlier, the different events, workshops, and conferences.
Cool. So when you say workshops and events and conferences, what kind of events and workshops were they?
Yeah, so I started my event production career as just a meetup organizer. I was really passionate about community building and getting people together and connecting with people around my passions. So the first ever meetup I started was in entrepreneurship and business. Then I started going more niche than that. So that's a little bit broad overall with just business generally. But then I started focusing on the first other meetup I started was a meetup just for dads. So I'd become, and this was about 3 years ago now, I'd become a dad for the first time. I was looking for resources and support from other dads, and I couldn't find many. There's tons and tons and tons of mom resources, mom support groups.
Yep.
I couldn't find any, especially like in-person support groups where we can connect with other dads. So because I couldn't find any, I ended up creating them. So I launched the meetup group, and it was really good because it wasn't huge. There was only like the first one, I think there's about 20, 25. And then now we're averaging 10, 15, 20 dads who come out. But it's great because where else do you see 20 dads hanging out?
Right.
All at once. And we have different guest speakers about fatherhood and all that. So I launched the dad one, and then I launched this community for bloggers, which I've been running for about 2 years now, blogging community. And then I launched a foodie community, just for people who love food, to connect to different restaurants. So we'd bring in like 20, 30 people at a different restaurant, and we'd learn about the restaurant owner and connect with other food lovers. Then I also have a travel community as well. So what I've been really focusing on is like from the online world, from like things like Facebook groups and meetup groups, taking them from the online world and then connecting in person. Like
Mm-hmm.
the eye to eye, the face to face, the hand to hand, and yeah, that's what I've been doing. So the blogging meetups, the dad meetups, the foodie meetups, the traveler meetups.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about the dad group. When you guys get together, what kind of topics are you guys talking about? How to change a diaper? I mean, there's got to be some diaper jokes in there somewhere. What kind of things are you guys talking about?
Yeah, yeah, we do joke around because I think that's part of being a dad, kind of being the goofy, just being the fun, hands-on dad. But I think we try to go into the real depth of fatherhood as well. Some of our struggles and challenges as well. And I think
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of dads have the common issues, things like work-life balance. A lot of us dads were so busy in work and business that we sometimes we neglect our marriages and we neglect being really hands-on with the kids in terms of spending a lot of time with them, dedicated time with them.
Mm-hmm.
So just those kind of topics we've talked about, like things like bullying, things like how can we teach our kids about tech, and how can we teach our kids to be the best leaders they can be. This year in January, we talked about how we as dads can set a vision for our families for the new year.
Mm-hmm.
So those are some of the kind of topics. Some of the a little bit more philosophical, but some are practical, and they have to do with just being the strongest dads we can be.
Awesome. So talk a little bit about your travel blog now, since you're doing that.
Yeah, so I've been really passionate about fatherhood, and fatherhood's a little bit. It can be a little bit of a general kind of overarching theme, and I'll kind of share with you the history of like my dad blog. So I was doing these live in-person events, but I've also been writing about fatherhood for the last 3 years. And what I started doing as well is doing interviews. So similar to what you're doing here, Brian.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I know you interview different entrepreneurs and business owners, social media marketers, etc. What I was doing is interviewing a lot of dads, and I started getting all this content. So I interviewed over 100 dads, and I put them all into book form. So I have the book, I have a blog, and as I was writing about fatherhood, I started focusing on the areas I was most passionate about within fatherhood.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really passionate about traveling with my kids. And I think what happens with a lot of parents is we might have traveled a lot before we got married, but once you get married, once you have a couple of kids,
Right.
you tend to kind of just hang out at home a lot more because there's obviously costs involved. There's just kind of the logistical challenges with taking kids either in a car or on a plane, and just the difficulties in traveling with kids. So I found a lot of other parents were kind of facing those challenges as well. And again, there weren't many resources
Mm-hmm.
for family travel, and especially for like long-term family travel or travel with really young kids. And even if they weren't really from the dad's perspective. So that's why I decided that this is something I was really passionate about. Before I got married, I'd traveled to over 50 countries. So I'd done a lot of backpacking, couch surfing, that kind of stuff. Before I hit 30, I'd hit 50 countries. So I done a lot, but then I got married, and then for about 7-8 years from marriage to having 2 kids, I basically didn't travel at all besides just localized road trips.
Mm-hmm.
But there was still kind of this yearning. They call it the travel bug. Once you travel a lot, you want to keep traveling. So I had this travel bug, and we decided, hey, why is having kids limiting us from traveling? Why don't we still travel and obviously just travel at a different pace and travel with the kids' interests in mind? So that's when I decided basically to launch the Family Travel Blogger website, because
Mm-hmm.
I knew there was all these parents who want to travel more, but again, they had all these excuses like time and money and not knowing what to do when they're on planes with a whole bunch of adults and they're the one with the baby. And
Right.
interrupting everyone. So yeah, that's why I launched the Family Travel Blogger site, Brian.
Awesome. So I guess one of the questions I always have, because I talk to a lot of bloggers, and the thing that they're trying to figure out is how to monetize a blog.
Yeah.
How have you been able to monetize your blogs?
Yeah, sure. I can share with you that journey as well. So I started, like I said, the daddyblogger.com website on December 1st, 2012. So it's been over 3 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first started, obviously I didn't monetize right away. And what I teach now, I run workshops about blogging, and I have some online courses about blogging. What I teach now is it's important first before you monetize to set the foundation. So I have a 3-step process. It's called making, marketing, monetizing your blog. And it's really in that order. First, you make your blog and you cover things like branding, figuring out who your ideal reader is, things like consistency of posting. And then from there, you go into the engagement part. Like, okay, once you have your blog, you have your brand, you figured out who your reader is. Then you go into the whole thing about building up your readership. And, how do you build up a blog readership on obviously things like social media, email marketing, even doing like some video blogging on YouTube, even things like what we're doing today, Brian, like doing interviews. A lot of people who are watching from your side might never have heard of my website, right? And, that would obviously get me more coverage. And obviously when I share it too, it helps you as well. So doing interviews such as this one on Skype or Google Plus or now Blab, that really helps build up your readership and also your brand presence, your brand awareness. And things like doing contests as well, I found really work well. Running contests, and then when I ran the contest, I get people like me on Facebook or follow me on Twitter or leave a blog post comment. The other stuff I did was getting guest blog posts. So getting people to guest blog on mine, guest blogging on others, and getting some mainstream media coverage too, so like TV, print, radio. So now we come to your question, which is the monetizing, right? But it's really important first to have the foundation, get that readership, and then sponsors are going to be willing to work with you and create some brand agreements. So I monetize in 3 ways. So I have, firstly, my own products and services. So like I mentioned, I have the book, which is a print book and also ebook. I also have the workshops. So I have like in person, but also have blogging workshops online. I also have a membership site. So I get some, monthly residual there with different people on the membership site. And then basically that's the whole thing about having my own products and services. I also do some Skype coaching. So those are some services I created as a result of my blog. And also selling on my blog, even e-commerce store. I have an e-commerce store on my blog on daddyblogger.com where people can basically read my reviews and then purchase items without ever leaving the blog. So that's basically the first kind of overarching way to monetize. And I've pretty much monetized in all those areas I mentioned, some obviously at a higher rates than others. And then if you don't have your own products and services to sell, then you can sell someone else's, which is called affiliate marketing. So you can do things like reviews. So I did a lot of like stroller reviews or, kids' toys or even books, etc. And then you have a link to Amazon or even to the manufacturer's website, and you would get a commission. That could be like a 10% commission, a 20, a 50, 80, even a lot higher. It could be up to 100. If some companies, they basically don't care really about that commission at the front end, but they really want to get them on the list and make money on the back end. So that area, if you guys internet marketers, you'll understand the whole front and back end.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And then the last way to monetize a blog is the whole area of sponsorships and advertising. So obviously you can have direct advertising on your homepage, either on your header or your sidebar or in your footer, even in your email newsletter, you could put advertising on there. Even on things like podcasts, you can obviously advertise on here. Even blabs, you can obviously advertise on here too. Sponsored by ABC company or XYZ company. But that's not the only way to monetize a blog. There's some creative things like doing sponsored blog posts. So basically a company would pay you and then you would write a blog post on your site, but it would be I guess they call it an advertorial. So
right.
Advertisement is not an editorial, but it's a combination of an advertisement and an editorial. So advertorial. And you would disclose it on there or disclaim it saying on there saying, I was compensated for this post, but still the views and opinions are still my own. And then you can do like things like Twitter parties where you can charge for those, Instagram takeovers, even getting paid for like tweets or social media shares. So those are some of the ways I monetize personally. And I think those are some of the ways that bloggers can generalize as well. The bloggers can monetize as well.
That's a lot, dude.
Yeah, it was a long answer. Sorry, I
No,
went.
it's great. No, it's great. That's I mean, I appreciate your transparency and stuff, and just showing the whole big picture. So let's talk about some of your contests. What do you do as far as contests go? What give some examples of that?
Yeah, sure. So basically, like I said, a good way to really build up your readership is to run contests. So what you do there is, again, you work with sponsors, and you can give away stuff that they manufacture. So I have given away literally thousands of dollars of different products and services on my blog. And what happens is I will run the contest, but the company is the one that will send out the product and basically pay for all the kind of logistical stuff. So I don't want to be dealing with like shipping or writing out the people's addresses or, paying for the product or paying for the shipping, etc. So the companies deal with that. And I use a website called or a plugin called Rafflecopter. So it's kind of like a raffle, a draw, and then copter. And it's spelled Raffle Copter. So Rafflecopter. And basically with the Rafflecopter plugin, you can attach that to WordPress. It's a really cool tool because what happens is how do you run a contest? So basically, instead of like figuring out how to do it on your own and creating some kind of like software for it, you can just use that plugin. It's just a copy and paste HTML. You put in your blog in like a kind of like a tab will show up or a box. And on the box, it will ask the person, like say you're a reader and you come to my site and you want to enter the contest. It will ask you like, hey, do you want to win this prize? And let's just say it's like I've given out a printer and I've given out a laptop. So let's just say it's a printer. See, and it was by HP, this Hewlett Packard. So I worked with HP, and then Hewlett Packard said, yeah, would you be interested in reviewing this brand new printer and also giving out one to your readers? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I'd love to review your printer, and I'd love to give one out and bless one of my readers. So basically what happens is you run that contest on Rafflecopter, and then you get people to do stuff. So and each of the things they do will be an entry. So you can, for example, get them to like you on like your fan page. You can get them to tweet out the contest. You can get them to leave a blog post comment. And each of those entries will be worth different points. So it could be like 1 point for Facebook like, 1 point for a tweet, maybe 2 points for a blog comment, maybe 5 points if they opt into your email list. So basically, you can create recipes of what you want them to do in return for entries. And basically, then it's all automated in terms of who wins it. So basically, you can just pick automated, generated out of all the entries that come in, pick someone out of all those to win the prize. And so once you pick the winner, HP will send out the laptop and printer to that person. So that's basically how I run my contests.
That's pretty amazing, dude. I mean, the fact that you got HP backing you. What other companies have you worked with as far as been able to give away some stuff?
Yeah, so I've worked with major companies, kind of like mid-sized companies, and just smaller kind of mom and pop solopreneur companies. So I've worked with like big companies such as Disney and Best Buy, even like London Drugs or Future Shop, and these kind of like bigger companies, more well-known ones. And then I work with obviously a lot of companies in the parenting sphere, so like toy companies, clothing companies, like I said, like stroller companies or car seat companies. So a lot of like companies that are trying to reach the parent demographic. I actually work with a lot of car companies as well, because I always look at like who has the money, and obviously companies like Disney definitely have the money because they own like so much things. Like they own like Marvel, they own the Star Wars franchise, they own the Disney parks, they own all the Disney toys and Pixar, right? So like, and they're obviously trying to reach my demographic, which is parents and kids and families. So Disney is obviously like my ideal client in terms of working with them, or my ideal brand partner. But I also work with like car companies, which also do have a lot of money, right? They're willing to spend millions of dollars in commercials and advertisement. So a lot of car companies will give me cars to review. So I'll do like a 1 week car review, and I'll write about the car from the perspective of how good is this for a family of 4, which we have my wife and 2 kids. So I'll write about it, like, for example, how much trunk room is there for like a double stroller? How safe is it for the kids? What about car seats? Is it easy to like strap them in? Is it easy to get the kids in and out? How roomy is it? How easy is it to clean? How is it for road trips? And I don't really talk about the technical stuff of a car, like horsepower or engine and all that. I'm not really interested in that part of a car. I'm just a dad who wants to drive a car, and that's what my readers are, right? They just some of them are techies, but at the end of the day, they want to know how safe is it, how roomy is it, and how like things like fuel economy, environmental, eco-friendliness, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So I have worked with like the big car companies like Lexus and Toyota, Honda, Volkswagen, Ford, etc. So off the top of my head, those are some of the companies, and kind of like the tech sector, the parenting sector, the automobile sector.
Dude, tell me that you were able to raffle off a car. That would be cool.
Hey, that would be cool, and it would be great to get a car like to review for a year and all that, or something like that. And my wife keeps saying that, hey, why aren't we driving like the latest 2016 BMW or Mercedes or something?
Right.
And of course, we were just driving our Honda Civic, which is a great family car, and we do get like the 1 week test drives, but no, haven't done a car raffle yet.
That would be epic, dude. That would be fabulous.
Epic. My blog will take it to a whole other level if I was able to give like a $10,000 car away. Or 20 or 30.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about, where do you get your ideas? I mean, is your blog, because obviously you're doing some of your own stuff, you're doing some review stuff. I mean, do you have a calendar that you set up, or how do you pick and choose your topics? I mean, what's your thought process about developing the content that's out there?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. That's a great one, Brian, because what happens with a lot of bloggers who get into the whole monetization game is they start doing these sponsor post after sponsor post after sponsor post after sponsor post. So it becomes basically like a commercial. And people aren't there to read commercial after commercial after commercial. They're reading your blog to get advice about parenting or fatherhood, or they are also wanting to learn about cars, and they're also wanting to learn about the latest gadgets and products for families, but not in the sense of like the only reason you're writing about it is because you got paid for it or because you got a free product. So this is a fine line to walk, and I think a lot of bloggers struggle with the line. They feel they've sold their soul to the big companies, to corporate entities, and it's kind of sad that happens. And I've struggled with that too. Like sometimes you only have limited time, and if you have a lot of products to review, obviously take some time and effort into researching them and into taking good pictures, even doing some video reviews and putting that all together. That a blog post could take anywhere from like 20 minutes for really like kind of like a quickly crafted one to upwards of an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours. Some blog posts, and I know some bloggers spend like 5 to 10 hours on one blog post. I would say maybe for me, anywhere from an hour to 2 to 3 for a really good one. I wouldn't spend more than 3 hours for one blog, but there are people that do. With me, probably the 1 to 3 hour mark. And in terms of content, I have a few categories, and I think this is important for bloggers to figure out. So figure out kind of like what's your broad topic. It could be like food, or it could be health, or it could be travel, it could be tech, it could be anything, right? Really,
being a dad.
Being a dad, yeah, which happens to be mine, but obviously it could be anything and everything under the sun, right? It could be business and entrepreneurship, like what you blog and podcast about, right? Social media, etc. So first, figure out the broad theme of your blog, and then figure out some categories. So for me, under parenthood is kind of like parenting and fatherhood is my broad meta category, but then under that I have like I do product reviews, and then I do event like localized events. I also do interviews with dads. I have a guest dad section, etc. So have some kind of like broad topics, and then like for example in my case I would do like some thoughts and reflections about fatherhood, about marriage, about work-life balance, and those kind of issues. I always look at it like from the perspective of what does my reader want to write about, and what are some of my read about, and what are some of my struggles as a dad? Because if I have these struggles, like with being the best husband I can be, or finding that time to hang out with my kids, then my readers are probably going to have some of the same struggles. So I just write about what I want to know, and I'm sure there'll be other readers who want to know about what I'm writing about too. So
Mm-hmm.
that's, I would say, the content piece of things, side of things. And in terms of consistency of posting, I would say editorial. There are some things like a blog editorial calendar. What I do is generally, when I first started, I used to be a daily blogger. So basically writing a blog post every day. And I did that for almost a year. And that was really good to do that daily blog for the first year because it built me a good foundation and a good, I think I have over 1,000 blog posts now. So a
Mm-hmm.
really solid foundation of content and also consistency. And now I'm a little bit less frequent. So I do maybe about once a week. And I would suggest to bloggers who are just starting out, once a month might be too infrequent. Maybe bi-weekly or weekly would be a good starting point. Maybe twice a week. And if you can do at least once a week, I'd recommend that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good advice. Really good advice. And like you were saying, I mean, one of the reasons I love doing shows like this and doing my podcast and those kind of things is I get to interview people
Mm-hmm.
and learn from you. Like I've, never heard of Rafflecopter before, and you can be sure I'm going to be checking that out when we're done. So, and that's the great thing about this kind of format is you start to, you meet new people, you create friendships. I mean, you never know when we're going to be at a conference together or something like that. And you get a different perspective. I mean, there's so many bloggers that I've interviewed over the year, and they have different techniques and different ways of doing it. And I love your concept of creating, first and foremost, your overarching category, but then creating subcategories and then kind of filling in those gaps as you go along. I mean, that's a structure like that takes away a lot of the writer's block and things like that. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And having kind of like that business mindedness or the entrepreneurial mindedness when you're blogging as well. So that's why I talked about things like how do you create a brand first, and how do you figure out your ideal reader, and then the whole marketing angle, and then the monetizing angle. So you got to think of your blog as a business, because if you just treat it as a hobby, or you don't really put the time and effort or energy into it, you're not going to get the results. You're not going to get cash coming in, right? And
Right.
unfortunately, a lot of bloggers, they treat it kind of haphazardly. They don't really have good graphics or branding. The website doesn't look really professional. And why would companies pay you hundreds or thousands of dollars if your website looks really crappy, right? So it's really
Mm-hmm.
important to build that the quality professional presence in terms of the visual, but also in terms of the communication, the dialogue, even having a media kit, that's really vital. And having a professionally done pitch letter, and really creating that brand partnership is really important. So very much the principles of business apply to the principles of blogging. There's very much a interconnectedness. So that's something I teach, basically to teach bloggers how to be business owners and how to take
Right.
a blog and make it into a business.
See, that's great. That's great advice. Hey, if anybody wants to jump in, you got any questions for Ricky or myself, feel free to jump in. There's an open seat. We'd love to have your questions. And I agree with you 110%, Ricky. Man, it's all about, if you don't treat your business like a business, you've got a really expensive hobby, And I know a lot of people in both the internet marketing space, blogging space, online marketing, even just regular businesses. I mean, local businesses. People just don't understand the importance of running your business like a business. I mean, one of the things I always say is, I tend to want to work with people that could read a balance sheet, because I want them to understand return on investment. If they understand return on investment, then they tend to be a good client, because then I can show them how to get a return on investment. If they don't understand that, a lot of times they have either skewed or unrealistic expectations. They just don't know what to expect or what they want. Everybody says, hey, I want to make a lot of money. Okay, well, what does that mean? Do I want to increase my income by 5%, 10%? How fast do I want to do this? What do I need to do that? That's what running a business is about. So what kind of things have you taught your clients over the years about, running their businesses more like a business and less like a hobby?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just kind of follow up on what you said about ROI. And I'll kind of take it to the blogging world too. What a lot of bloggers get caught up in is this whole thing about free products. And I was caught up in that game too. When I first started, I had no idea where the blog was going to go in terms of what was going to happen, how many readers I was going to get, was I going to get actual money coming in? I didn't know that, right? So when I first started, I started getting a lot of free products. And this is the way a lot of bloggers start. They start maybe sending out some emails to companies and saying, hey, I have this parent blog. I'd love to review this toy or this gadget, right? So all of a sudden you start getting these gadgets and you're so excited, right? You're like, oh my God, this company is giving me a $50 product or $100 product. And you start getting free products and you get kind of obsessed with the free products. But the thing you brought up was ROI, and it's not just the ROI in terms of like, okay, you spend money, you get money back, but the whole ROI relative to time. So when you're getting a free product, it's actually going to still take you time to write up the blog post, to take good pictures, to send it out, to market it. So you're not just getting a free product, and it's kind of a misconception in the blogosphere that you're getting a free product, because they're not just giving you a free product and that's it. There's an expectation of return on ROI. So the company is giving you a $50 to $100 product, but they're expecting $50 to $100 worth of value back. And that is through the social media following you built up, and you marketing for them, and you potentially creating sales for that company. So that's the ROI from the company sending to the blogger. But the blogger, you also have to consider your time as value, and also your readership as value, right? So you might want to start off with like getting the free products, but once you build up your blog to, a significant following, then I think it's important to start charging for that, because if TV's doing that, if print's doing that, if radio's doing that, and they're charging literally thousands, if not millions of dollars for like a Super Bowl ad or, a spot in American Idol or one of these big shows, then why can't you as a blogger start charging a couple $100 isn't a big deal for Disney, is it?
No.
Because they're spending like literally millions and millions of dollars on like the Star Wars advertising, and that's why Star Wars what it was when it got launched with The Force Awakens, right? Or the latest Pixar movie or the latest toys and all, right? They're spending significant cash load on that, on traditional media, right? So for them to give us bloggers like $200 to $500 is nothing for Disney, right? So I look at it from that perspective. I'm like, hey, I've taken 3 years of my life to build up a significant following. So now that's worth money. And my time's worth money, right? So, and it's taken me a while to really figure that out, because I got caught up in kind of like that free product game, like I mentioned. So now I've started valuing my blog, and, when companies approach me, it depends on the product, but a lot of the time I'll just say, sorry, I don't just take free product, but I charge for a product review. And a starting point might be like $100 US. So basically getting the blog, it depends, right? Again, if they're giving you like a printer, which is a $500 to $1,000, then maybe you're not going to ask for something. But if they're giving you like a $40, $50 product, then you might want to ask for at least $100 for the blog post. If you have a bigger following, then you might want to charge $200 to $500. There's some bloggers that are charging about $1,000 for a blog post. I used to charge about $100 for blog posts. Now I'm charging about $250. And again, it's kind of relative to your following, and also the product you're getting, the relationship with the company, how big's the company, do they have an advertising budget, etc. So there are a lot of variables to consider, but I would definitely say start charging. Sooner the better, as soon as you build up, a following, like for example, a certain number of fans, a certain number of Twitter followers, a certain number of monthly views.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. I mean, and that's what you said about your time is valuable. And I could see where bloggers would get caught up in the free stuff, because we all love things showing up on our doorstep and in our mailbox, and, it doesn't matter. It's just something that showed up and it's like, wow, I got this for nothing. And no, your time is very valuable. So that's great advice, man. Very, very good.
Thanks.
So what kind of, aside from that, let's talk about some of your educational things when you're doing, now you have online courses and then you do face-to-face stuff as well?
Yes. So like I said, I've been running different events, workshops, conferences, and they have to do with topics such as, like, I ran 3 conferences last year in 2015. I ran a social media mastery conference, which was a 1-day conference where we covered, like, it was a platform specific conference. So we had different speakers talk about the major social media platforms. So we had a Facebook expert, a Twitter expert, a LinkedIn expert, a Google Plus expert, a YouTube expert. We even had a Snapchat expert. So we had different speakers talk about all those topics. And we had about 200 plus people in attendance. And, I would charge about $100 for a ticket. And then I would also charge sponsors as well to sponsor the event. And then it was really educational driven, right? And community building, networking driven as well. So I did the social media one, and that was quite popular because obviously social media is really hot and people want to learn, especially, and my target market is small business owners. So a lot of like entrepreneurs, small business owners would come to the conference really having a business, but not really knowing how to market it, and especially not knowing how to use social media effectively. So I did that big conference last year, and then from there, I basically built up from the social media conference to a blogging conference, and I built up from the 1 day to a 2 day conference. And that one was basically like what we've been talking about already during this conversation is like the basics of blogging, how to market a blog, how to work with sponsors, etc. And then from there, I went to internet marketing, and I did a 3 day internet marketing conference. And that was like basically how to run an e-commerce store, how to do Skype coaching, basically how to make money online. So we did 3 big conferences about social media, blogging, internet marketing, and we see Jeff on here. So thanks.
Hey Jeff, how was it hanging down there in Georgia, my man?
Hey Brian, it's good. You know that dreaded snowmageddon.
Yes.
We have the rain-mageddon in Vancouver. The rain.
Been pretty tough for us.
I bet. Yeah, people stuck in their cars again this year.
No, it wasn't like 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's good.
North of here, it got a little bit scary, but you know, it's a bread and milk kind of thing. You know, you got to get the bread and milk.
So what's happening? You got a question? You just want to stop in and say, hey?
But I got to say, I love your background here with the bacon.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Hey, Ricky, I'm Jeff. Good to meet you.
Hey, Jeff. Nice to meet you.
Thank you for that tip about Rafflecopter. Just like Brian, I'm going to be checking that out soon. What I wanted to ask you is, and I love the idea of every action somebody takes becomes a chance to win. So they want to take as many actions as they can. That's a great idea. How do you approach somebody to give something away? Let's say I want to, because I teach content marketing, content creation, so it makes sense for people to have a printer or a mouse or that kind of stuff. How would I approach my local Office Max, or how do you start that process of getting somebody to donate something?
Yeah, so that's called a pitch letter. So I can give you a structure of a good pitch letter. So basically, you would start off with like finding out who you're going to pitch to. So it's really important not just to say, dear Staples, or dear Office Max, or dear XYZ company. It's important to figure out like the person who's in marketing or PR. So figure out kind of the marketing director or the marketing manager of that company. And with a big company like Staples, Office Max, I'm not sure if you want to reach like the store level or kind of the corporate level. Most likely it's the corporate level because they'll make those decisions on things like the marketing budget and allocating free products for reviews. So it'll probably be at the corporate level, but sometimes it could be at the store level if you're working in a localized market and you really want to build up the store branding and the store relationship. But just let's go for the corporate level. So you would approach like Sarah Smith at marketing, right? So dear Sarah, my name's Jeff. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm a blogger. I'm a content creator, and you could talk a little bit about your business, right? And also you could talk about Office Max or Staples, right? Build them up a little, saying, hey, we use a lot of products from your store, and we love the company. We talk about right? Really build up the company. And then you talk about your following, your readership, right? You could talk about, I have this website. It gets these many monthly views. It gets these many unique views. We have a social media following of over, I don't know, pick a number like 20,000, right? And figure out you're going to figure out your following in terms of like overall following. Right. And the way you calculate that is like your monthly views, your unique visitors, your overall social media following on Facebook friends, Facebook fans. If you have Facebook groups, Facebook group members, Twitter following, Instagram following, Pinterest following, Google Plus people in your circles.
Add up every number you can, right?
Yes, so figure out your overall following, and then
and don't forget your clout score too.
Clout score, there you go.
And Brian Basilico.
Don't forget your clout score. so you figure out your overall social media following, and you just say, so I'm Jeff. I write this website. I have these many views a month. I have these many social media followers, and I'd love to work together with Office Max. And you kind of leave it up in the air in some ways. Because this is kind of like the first date, right? It's just the introductory letters. You don't want to be asking too much.
Right. Don't want to propose on the first date.
It's a drink and a dinner, right? It's not the whole shebang yet. So it's really about that first conversation, that handshake, getting to know the brand, and seeing if they even want to work with you, right? Or if they want to date you. If you want to take that analogy a little bit further. But basically, you're building up the relationship, and I don't fully ask at the first point. It's more about, would you like to work together? And if they say, yeah, we work with bloggers all the time, what did you have in mind? Then I'll start that second part of the dialogue. I'm like, hey, we really like this, the latest gadget, and we really love to review this gadget. And then you can be more specific. And then you can talk about what you're going to do. Are you going to do a video review? Are you going to do a written review? Are you going to share it across your social media? How many times are you going to share it? Is it going to be like 2 blog posts? Is it going to be 1 blog post? Is it going to be 5 social shares? Is it going to be 1 YouTube video? How many views is that blog post going to get? How many views is that YouTube video going to get? How many social shares? How many followers is it going to reach on Twitter and Facebook, right? So the more specific you can get, the better, right? Because these companies are looking at the numbers, the metrics, the ROI, which we talked about earlier, Brian. So figure out, if they're going to give you something, what are they going to get back in return?
Right.
So that's a really important question to figure out. It's not about whether you're going to get the product, but what can you do for them? If you can do more for them than what they're going to do for you, it's an easy no-brainer for that company, right? Yeah. So that's the whole thing about building up that solid foundation of what can you do for that company. And the bigger your following, the more you can do for that company, right? And you've got to be creative, not just the written blog post, but doing like a video review, doing an unboxing video, right? So basically getting the box in the mail, and then you start unboxing it, and maybe you can even do a live stream Blab of the unboxing, right? So you can be really creative. And
I like that idea. Thank you. That's a good place to start.
Cool. Great place to start. Yep. So what I'm looking for, if somebody's watching this on a replay, I want to find a Bacon of the Month club that wants to be sponsored by this show.
Bacon of the Month.
Mark, it's the gift that keeps on giving.
Amen, brother.
So, Brian, I wanted to ask you, a minute ago, you were scrolling something across the bottom of the screen.
It's ManyCam. So I'm using ManyCam, and I just turn on the scrolling and just say, okay, the show is sponsored by Bacon Podcast and baconcoach.com, and it just scrolls for you. So that's part of it.
I've seen that on the Blab before. All right. Yep. So I'm going to go find me a Bacon of the Month club and get back to you.
Sounds great, man.
Right,
and thanks a lot. Hey, thanks for coming on, Jeff. So anybody else wants to jump on? That was some good stuff. And that was some great content that you gave him too, man. It's how to be subtle and not overdo the first date.
Exactly. I see Sam has a question too here on the Sammy.
He does. Awesome. So what's the question?
Do you contribute in virtual communities for knowledge sharing?
I'm guessing that question is for you.
Yeah, so I don't mind answering that question. So I think what Sammy is asking here is like, do I take part in forums or Facebook groups, etc.? And they definitely, especially Facebook groups, there's literally thousands and thousands of different groups on Facebook around different topics, right? So there are the blabbing groups, blabbers groups. There's Facebook sharing groups, the Twitter groups on Facebook. There's blogger groups. There's blog monetization groups. There's podcasters groups. So there's definitely a lot of like virtual communities for knowledge sharing. And if you're a new blogger, there's places where you can like do a like for like thread or a comment for comment thread. Basically, how that works is like you go to the group and just say, "Hey, I just wrote this blog post, and I'm looking for more comments." And you would write your blog post on there, and you could get people to comment on yours, and then they would have their blog post on there, and then you could comment on theirs. So those are like comment threads or like for like threads. I actually don't like those that much because it feels a little bit artificial. Because at the end of the day, you want to have real readers and real people commenting. You don't want to be just doing kind of like for the sake of getting comments. And that's what happens in those kind of like online communities where it's a like for like. Like for like's all right if it's kind of like people who really do like each other. Comment for comment, it feels a little bit artificial. I would prefer kind of like the more genuine, real readers leaving real comments. But hey, when you're starting off, you might need to do that to build up your readers. And maybe those people who start leaving comments will become readers eventually. But I hope I've answered your question there. Feel free to leave a follow-up question, Sammy.
Yep. And then we had another question right below that, and he said, "How do you put that background? It's looking awesome." You want to know the truth? Is I went to Amazon and I found a bacon shower curtain, and that's exactly what that is. It's a bacon shower curtain, and I have a screen that when I give presentations, so I've got a screen because I'm a speaker too. I do a lot of speeches locally. Matter of fact, I'm giving 2 on Wednesday, one for a Chamber of Commerce and one at a college. So I carry my screen. All I did was pull the screen across, put some clips behind it, and got a background. So you could go to Amazon and find a big, wide something. You could find some kind of backdrop and shower curtain that maybe would work for you and make it simple like that. So that's how I was able to have this little portable studio, so to speak, because I'm really just sitting at my desk where I work every single day. And just did this to kind of give it a little bit of flavor for the bacon blab. So blab with bacon or whatever you have. So that's been my brand because that's the book I wrote, which is It's Not About You, It's About Bacon, Relationship Marketing in a Social Media World. And to build on what you said, Ricky, I did something very similar. I wrote a blog post every single day for a year. And they were very short little blog posts. They were like 50 words, and it was 101 relationship marketing tips. That's the name of and the book is It's Not About You, It's About Bacon Bits, 101 relationship marketing tips. So I took those blogs and I categorized them under technology or relationships or networking or what have you, and created a book just from that blog. So that becomes a giveaway, so I can give that away at speeches. It's something that sells on Amazon, both in book form and in ebook form. And it's great for contests. So, I love what you talked about that before, is repurposing your content in ways, doing it with a purpose so that at the end you have something that you can utilize to repurpose. So talk about how you've done that.
Yeah. And, for bloggers, that's really easy to do because you already have a lot of content, and it's fairly easy to turn that content from a blog to a book. So basically what you do there is obviously it should be around the same theme, right? So like with me, I was interviewing all these dads and I had all this content. So I basically just repurposed that content from interview form, all these Google Hangouts and Skype interviews. And unfortunately they didn't have Blab back then, but that's how I was doing it. And I had all these video content and I basically repurposed that. And I started watching the interviews again and taking the nuggets of wisdom. And I started just turning that into the book. And I had all this content. So basically it was easy to turn that into the book. And then obviously you got to figure out how to market the book. And it's one thing to launch the book and, maybe become an Amazon bestseller. But then it's a whole other ballgame to figure out how to continuously get people to buy the book. And it's basically getting out there, right? Doing these kind of interviews and mentioning the book, right? And just getting the word out there and getting sales ongoing, doing obviously things like SEO are important. So with bloggers, I think they're good content creators, they're good writers, and it's important to figure out how else you can change that free content into paid content.
Right.
So you could turn your blogs into maybe an ebook. You could turn your blogs into video content or courses, right? Because if you're a blogger who's teaching something, like in my case, I'm teaching about parenting or fatherhood, and in your case, you're teaching about social media, marketing, those kind of things. So obviously, those things that people want to learn, and people are willing to pay for that stuff, right? So turn the free content into paid content through just like we said, repurposing into an ebook, a video course, even a membership site. So you could put all the content in a membership site, password protected, and then you could not only get income once, but you could get ongoing income through a monthly subscription model. You can do things like live group coaching as well. If people can't afford to hire you on a one-on-one basis, you could have a little mastermind group or small group coaching. So there's a lot of ways definitely you can use this content.
Well, somebody's says, I'd like to join this video. Can I call in? Absolutely. You just have to, as long as you've got a video camera and a headset or a mic, there we go. And here he comes. And good stuff. And we got a handful of minutes left, so we'll take a couple more. If anybody else wants to jump in, we still have another open seat. And it looks like he's trying to come in. And as with Blab, sometimes it gets a little funky.
Hello.
Sometimes it's hard to join. Oh, there we go. All
Hi.
right. Welcome.
Hi.
What's your name? I'm sorry.
My name is Dipanshu.
Dikwanshu?
Yes, Dipanshu.
Nice to meet you. So you got a question for Ricky?
I am having a question to both that, sir, I am doing MBA in marketing. I am from India. So I want to become a digital marketer. So tell me what course or what anything I can do so that I can become this digital marketer.
Well, first and foremost, I think we were talking about at the beginning, finding a niche. When you say marketer, I mean, it's a big, broad term. I think the best thing you could do is try to figure out what you're passionate about, and then figure out how to use that marketing experience and knowledge that you're gaining to help somebody just market in that direction. What do you think, Ricky?
Yeah, I think being a digital marketer is a little bit of a broader topic. So to figure out within digital marketing, what do you want to do? Because digital marketing is such a broad area. You could be doing things like Skype coaching. You could be doing like creating products, creating books, figuring out doing social media management. There's a lot of ways that a digital marketer can make money. So you got to figure out what you want to do. So do you have any particular skill set which you feel that you could monetize? Such as doing social media marketing or doing creating online courses or ebooks. Anything there, Dipanshu?
So actually, a few days back, I joined Northeastern Western social media marketing course on this Coursera website. So there I found something interesting, how to market this product through social media. But I don't know that is there a future after doing that course or not.
There's definitely a future with social media because it's so hot, right? So it's important to figure out like maybe a particular social media platform, and especially like where people are willing to pay, right? So especially like Facebook, if you can be a skilled social media marketer on Facebook and running like, for example, a fan page for someone, running Facebook ads for someone, turning Facebook fans into Facebook customers. So if you can figure out a way to really leverage, especially things like Facebook marketing, if people don't know how to do video marketing, you could help them set up like a YouTube channel and then help them create video content. So again, there's so many different ways you could potentially monetize through social media. So that course you're doing is definitely a good thing. And then you got to figure out like how to turn that course into income. I would suggest maybe something like a social media manager. I didn't know what you're thinking, Brian.
Yeah, no, exactly the same thing. And one thing you got to do, especially coming out of the starting gates, is try not to be a jack of all trades. Try to find one thing so that people will associate you with that. Like mine is bacon. Ricky is blogging, but Ricky does a lot more than just blogging because he's really doing content marketing. He's doing internet marketing. He's doing conferences. Masterminds. I mean, there's a lot of things that he's doing, but he's focused. When people think of him, he's the daddy blogger, and that's his brand. So that just becomes a point of a connection. From there, then you'll find out maybe you can do some other things, but you need to kind of niche out so that people understand, who you are, what you do, and how you can help them be successful. And I think the biggest point about all of this is find a pain point where people are, they don't know how to do it and they're willing to pay to have somebody else to do it. It's like picking up dog poo in my backyard. I pay somebody every week to do that. That's a pain point for me. I don't want to do it. I'm going to give them the $12. So, what's the pain point in marketing that you can help solve? Does that help? Awesome.
Sir, can you repeat the question?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Are you asking some question to me?
No, I'm asking you. Did that answer your question?
Okay. Yes, I'm getting it.
Good. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. We got a couple minutes left if anybody else wants to jump in if they've got a question. So nice meeting you. Greetings from India. Hey, this is an international show, man. We got Canada, we got India, we got Wayne's World, Aurora, Illinois. Woo woo. It's like we're all over. So if anybody else wants to jump in, we got time for probably one or two more questions. We'd love to have you. And thanks for all the questions that we had so far. Anything else you want to add, Ricky, that we haven't covered yet?
No, I think we've covered the whole basics. I think it's really important, like you were saying too, the whole thing about figuring out your passion, especially like again, since we're talking so much about blogging. Once you run out of content across something you're not passionate about, you'll get bored of it, you'll struggle to create content, etc. But if you can start at the starting gate with figuring out your passion, and figuring out the purpose, your values, and really living that out, then you're just going to have content all the time, because it's going to come out of your innermost being, and you'll be so passionate about reading about it and interviewing people about it, right? So like with Fathered, I'm so passionate about that topic. There's no end to that topic, because there's going to be new dads all the time. There's always going to be readers. It's an underserviced market. So it's important to figure out your passion, figure out the market, and figure out where the pain point is, right? So we're speaking the same language, Brian, even though we just met. We're definitely on the same page here.
Well, that's awesome. I like, you're like a brother from another mother, because we're both thinking the same way. Yeah. So, Ricky, if people wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Easy peasy, daddyblogger.com. That
is easy peasy. That is super easy peasy. I checked it out. It's a great site. And I actually have a friend of mine who has he's a daddy blogger as well. He has a blog called Spiraling Upwards. I tried to get him on this morning because I thought he would be he asked a lot of questions. I know he's going to love the replay of this, because you had so many great nuggets, and I really appreciate your time, man. I definitely want to connect up more, and maybe even get you on the podcast and just talk about monetizing a blog, because you had some great ideas, man. And so we'll touch bases on that as well.
Let's make it happen. I'd love to be on your podcast. Thanks for having me on your Blab, and it was an honor, Brian, and great connecting.
Oh, it's great connecting with you, man. Great stuff. I mean, this is what I want out of this Blab. Is I want it to be educational. I want great guests who got good stuff, and man, you delivered. You over-delivered. I really appreciate it. So, hey, it was a pleasure getting to know you, and I hope someday we'll meet face-to-face at a conference. If not, I know we'll virtually meet all the time now, because we're connected on Facebook. So stay in touch. Thanks again, Ricky, for coming on, and thank you all you guys for showing up. I hope you enjoyed this. The replay will be ready later today. Go to Blab with Bacon. As a matter of fact, let me do that one more time here. It's sponsored by a couple of different things. It's a little hard to read because it's white on my white shirt. So if I move out of the way, you'd be able to read it. But it's sponsored by baconcoach.com and Bacon Podcasts, where I do interviews with people like Ricky. They're short. They're 15 to 20 minutes, and lots of great content in there. Check that out. And this is Blab with Bacon. If you go to blabwithbacon.com, you can find all of the replays. And if you want to be a guest on the show, simply mail. Here, I'm going to put this in the window. It's KAY at b2b-im.com. She is my virtual assistant who handles all the bookings for the show. So if you'd like to be a guest, contact Kay, and we'd love to have you on. So any final thoughts, Ricky? Or?
No, it's I just want to thank everyone. I'm very contactable, if that's a word. But definitely feel free to reach out on social media. You can connect with me on Facebook, Twitter, on my blog. You can definitely connect with me on there. Email ricky@daddyblogger.com. Yeah, I love connecting with people, and I'd love to help you out. If you're just starting the journey into the blogosphere, hey, why make the mistakes yourself? I'd be definitely willing to share some of the mistakes I made along the way and what I've learned from there, and basically give you an opportunity not to repeat them. So thanks, awesome. Brian, for having me on.
All right, Ricky, it was a pleasure, man. We'll catch you later. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.